Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to explore the intricacies of language.
You know, I love a good verb, right? But some of those English verbs, they just love to play tricks on us.
Oh, for sure. They sound similar, but their meanings, totally different worlds.
It's like they're trying to test us, see if we're really paying attention. And you know what? Sometimes they win.
Even native speakers stumble on these, trust me.
It's true. It's true. So that's why we're doing this deep dive, tackling some of those confusing English verbs.
Gotta stay sharp, keep our language game strong.
Exactly. And we've got a great resource to guide us. Remember that awesome online lesson you sent about 21 tricky verbs?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Lots of great examples and explanations.
We're going to break down those verbs, give you some tips for remembering the differences, and maybe even uncover some of the history behind them.
A little language archaeology, always fun.
So, buckle up, word nerds. Let's get this deep dive started. And where better to begin than with the classic pair that causes endless headaches? Lay versus lie.
Ah, yes, the notorious lay and lie, always tripping people up.
The online lesson lays out the basics, but I feel like there's always more to uncover with these two. What do you think?
Well, one thing that's really interesting is how their meanings have actually shifted over time. You know, way back when lay used to be used for both putting something down and reclining.
Wait, seriously? So like, I'm going to lay down for a nap would have been grammatically correct back then.
Exactly. Imagine the confusion.
Whoa, my mind is blown. It's like the English language had a mischievous streak even way back then.
It definitely keeps things interesting. But for the sake of clarity today, we have to stick to the modern rules. Lay means to put something down, like lay the phone on the table, and lie means to recline, like lie down and take a nap.
Right. But the fun really starts when we get to the past tenses. Yesterday, I laid the phone on the table, but yesterday, I lay down for a nap.
The past tense of lie becomes lay. It's almost as if the language is playing a game with us, right?
It's definitely testing our memory skills. Okay, let's move on to another tricky pair. Raise and rise.
These two are all about direction, about things going up.
I always think of raising my hand in class versus the sun rising in the morning. Does that kind of capture the difference?
Perfect examples. Raise always needs an object. You raise your hand, you raise a flag, you raise a question. It's a transitive verb, meaning it needs something to act upon.
Okay, so raise is like the verb of action. You're actively lifting something up.
Exactly. While rise, on the other hand, is all about things going up on their own. It's intransitive, no object needed. Bread dough rises, the tide rises, hope rises.
So rise is about things ascending naturally without any external force.
You got it. But of course, there are always tricky situations, like what about stock prices? Do they rise or are they raised?
That's a good one. Technically, they rise on their own based on market forces, right? But people do say things like the company raised its prices, even though it's not grammatically correct.
Exactly. It's a subtle way of implying that the company has control over the price increase, even if it's technically dictated by the market.
Fascinating. It's like we're bending the rules of grammar to emphasize a certain point, to add a layer of meaning.
Absolutely. It shows how language is constantly evolving, responding to the ways we use it and the ideas we want to express.
All right, time for another verb showdown. Borrow and lend. We all know the basic idea. You borrow from someone, you lend to someone. But it's easy to get them mixed up in conversation.
Especially when you're in a hurry or not paying close attention.
Exactly. The lesson had a simple tip for keeping them straight. Think about the direction. You borrow from someone and lend to someone.
Ah, yes, that from and to distinction. Helpful little trick.
But beyond the grammar, there's something really interesting about the social dynamics of borrowing and lending. Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, absolutely. When you lend something, you're placing trust in the other person. It's more than just a transaction. It's a sign of your relationship.
You're expecting them to take care of your item and return it in good condition and on time.
Right. It's like an unspoken agreement, a mini social contract.
Oh, that reminds me of a time when I lent a book to a friend and they totally forgot about it. It was a signed copy, a real treasure. And I never saw it again.
Ouch, that's rough. I can see how that would strain a friendship.
It definitely did. It taught me a valuable lesson about lending out precious things.
We've all been there. But it really highlights how these simple verbs, borrow and lend, can have a surprising impact on our relationships.
Absolutely. It's not just about grammar. It's about navigating social expectations and those unspoken bonds of trust. Okay, ready for the next verb challenge?
Bring it on.
Let's tackle accept versus accept. They sound so similar, but their meanings are worlds apart.
Like night and day, the key is remembering that accept is about inclusion, taking something in. It's an action, like opening your arms to receive something.
Okay, so accept is like saying, yes, I'll take that.
Exactly. While accept is all about exclusion, leaving something out. It's about creating a boundary or making a distinction.
So like, I like all fruits except for bananas. I'm drawing a line in the sand.
Perfect example. You're accepting all the other fruits but excluding bananas.
And you know what's helpful? That little X at the beginning of accept. Like visually crossing something out, excluding it from the group.
Those little visual cues can be lifesavers, especially when you're dealing with words that sound so similar.
All right, ready to face the ultimate verb nemesis.
Let's do it. Bring on the challenge.
Affect versus affect. Even experienced writers get tripped up by these two.
No shame in admitting that. They're notorious for causing confusion.
The lesson we're using breaks it down pretty well, but I always need a refresher.
Well, the simplest way to think about it is affect is usually a verb and affect is usually a noun.
Okay, that's a good starting point. So affect means to influence something, like the weather can affect your mood.
Exactly. And affect is the result or consequence of something, like the effect of the storm was devastating.
But then there's that sneaky little twist. Affect can also be a verb, right?
You're right, it can, but it's used in a very specific way, meaning to bring about or to cause, like the new policy will affect positive change. It's a bit more formal.
So it's like the effect, the verb is reserved for those times when you really want to emphasize the power of something to create change.
Precisely. It's all about intentionality, choosing the right word to convey the precise shade of meaning you have in mind.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a handle on those two. Maybe. We'll see how I do in the real world.
Practice makes perfect.
Speaking of practice, let's move on to a pair that's all about reading between the lines. Infer and imply. They both deal with unspoken meanings, but how do we tell them apart?
Well, think about it this way. Imply is what the speaker does, and infer is what the listener does.
Okay, I like that. So if I say, wow, it's getting late, I might be implying that I want to leave, even though I haven't explicitly said it.
Exactly. And your listener might infer from your tone of voice and the context that you're ready to head home.
It's like a subtle dance of communication, where we're sending and receiving signals without always saying things directly.
Precisely. And this is where things can get tricky, because misunderstandings happen all the time. Someone might infer something different from what you intended to imply.
Oh, for sure. We've all been in those situations where someone took our words the wrong way, even though we thought we were being clear. It's a good reminder that communication is a two-way street.
Absolutely. We have to be mindful of both what we're saying and how it might be interpreted by others.
Okay, ready for another round? I'm feeling like a verb warrior.
Let's keep this momentum going. How about assure, insure, and insure?
Oh man, those three always get me. They sound so similar, and I can never remember which one to use when.
It's understandable. They have very subtle but important distinctions.
The online lesson gave some helpful examples, but I still need a little extra clarification.
Well, think of assure as primarily about calming someone's worries. Like, you might assure a friend that everything will be okay, or assure a client that their project is on track.
Okay, so assure is all about the emotional aspect, making someone feel confident and secure.
Exactly. Insure, on the other hand, is about guaranteeing an outcome, making sure something happens. You might ensure that a project is completed on time by setting deadlines and following up regularly.
So assure is about calming nerves, while insure is about taking action to make something certain. And where does insure fit into all of this?
Insure is a bit different. It's specifically about financial protection. You might insure your car against accidents or insure your home against damage.
Oh, right. It's about minimizing risk and protecting yourself financially. Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
It takes practice, but once you grasp the nuances, you'll be able to use these verbs with confidence.
Speaking of confidence, let's tackle a pair that often gets confused because the spelling is so similar. Lose and loose. The lesson mentioned a tip about the number of OS.
Right. Lose with one O is about being defeated or misplacing something. You might lose your keys, lose a game, or even lose your train of thought.
And loose with two O's means something isn't tight or restrained, like loose clothing or a loose tooth.
Exactly. And it's interesting how those spellings reflect the word's origins. Lose comes from an Old English word meaning to destroy, while loose comes from an Old Norse word meaning to loosen.
Wow, I love those little language history tidbits. It's like uncovering the secrets behind the words we use every day.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Language is like a living tapestry woven together from threads of history, culture, and human experience.
All right, let's move on to a pair that can be tricky in formal situations. Refuse and decline. I know the lesson mentioned that there's a difference in politeness, but I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Well, refuse is definitely more direct, maybe even a little blunt. It can come across as forceful or even confrontational. You might refuse a request outright if it's completely unacceptable, or refuse to participate in something you strongly disagree with.
So refuse is like a hard no, a firm rejection.
Exactly. While decline is a softer, more diplomatic way of saying no. It suggests that you're considering the request, but ultimately choosing not to comply.
So I might decline an invitation politely, explaining that I have a prior commitment, or decline a job offer if it doesn't align with my career goals.
Precisely. And it's interesting to consider how cultural norms can influence the choice between these verbs. In some cultures, directness is valued, while in others, it's considered rude.
That's a great point. What might be considered polite in one context could be seen as abrupt or even offensive in another. It's like language reflects the social rules and expectations of a particular community.
Absolutely. Effective communication requires not only grammatical accuracy, but also cultural sensitivity.
Okay, 2 more pairs to go. What's next on our verb agenda?
How about bring and take? These two often get mixed up, especially when we're talking about moving things from one place to another.
Oh, yes. I always have to stop and think about which one to use. I know it has something to do with direction.
Yeah. You got it. Bring implies movement towards the speaker, while take implies movement away from the speaker.
So if I'm at home and I say, bring me that book, I'm asking for the book to be brought to me, to my location.
Exactly. But if you're at the library and you say, take this book back, you're talking about moving the book away from your location.
Okay, so it all depends on the perspective of the speaker. It's all about where the object is going in relation to the person speaking.
You've got it. Bring it here. Take it there. It's a simple but effective way to remember the distinction.
All right, last pair for this part of our deep dive. Let's finish strong with remember and remind.
Ah, yes, the verbs of memory. These two can be tricky because they both involve recalling something from the past.
The lesson talked about the difference between internal and external cues. Can you elaborate on it a bit?
Sure. Remember is the internal act of retrieving information from your own memory, like accessing a file in your mental archive. It's all about what's going on inside your head.
So I might remember a childhood vacation without any external help. It's like those memories are stored somewhere deep inside my brain, waiting to be accessed.
Exactly. But sometimes we need a little help to jog our memory, which is where remind comes in.
Remind involves an external prompt, right? Like a note on the fridge or someone mentioning something that triggers a memory.
Precisely. You might set a reminder on your phone to call someone or be reminded of a past event by a certain song or smell. Like, remind provides that extra nudge to help us access those stored memories.
Okay, that makes sense. So remember is about internal recall, and remind is about external prompts. It's like we have these internal memory banks, but sometimes we need a little help to open the vault.
It's a fascinating interplay between our internal world and the external stimuli that shape our memories. All right, let's dive back into those tricky verbs. Ready for more?
Oh yeah, bring it on. I'm feeling like a verb warrior now.
Excellent. That's the spirit. So what do you say we tackle, see, watch, and look next?
Ooh, those are interesting. They all deal with vision, but I bet there are some subtle differences.
Definitely. Think of see as the most general one, simply registering something with your eyes. It can be unintentional, like when you see a bird fly by while you're reading.
So see is just about taking in the visual information without really processing it, kind of like passive observation.
Exactly. But when you watch something, you're deliberately focusing on it, paying attention to what's happening, like watching a movie or watching a sporting event.
Watch is more about being present in the moment, really engaging with what you're seeing.
Right. And then there's look, which is about intentionally directing your gaze towards something specific, like looking at a painting or looking for your keys.
So look is all about purpose and intention, like saying, I'm choosing to focus my attention on this particular thing.
Precisely. And it's amazing how these three simple verbs reflect different levels of engagement with the world around us. What we see, what we watch, what we look at, it all shapes our perception of reality.
That's deep. It's like we're constantly filtering the massive amount of visual information that bombards us every second, choosing what to focus on, what to ignore.
Absolutely. And speaking of focusing on something specific, let's talk about learn and teach.
Ah, yes, the dynamic duo of education. The lesson emphasized their opposite roles, acquiring knowledge versus imparting it.
Right. But I think it's also important to see how they're interconnected, how they feed into each other.
I like that. So learn is about expanding your understanding, taking in new information, and making connections.
Exactly. It can happen through reading, through experience, through interactions with others. It's a lifelong process.
And teach is about sharing what you've learned, guiding others on their own learning journeys.
So precisely. And you know what's fascinating? When you teach something, you often learn it even better yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having to explain something to someone else forces you to really think it through, to understand it on a deeper level.
It's like the saying goes, when one teaches, one learns twice. So true.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and tackle a pair that often gets misused, even by native speakers. Rise and arouse.
Oh, yes. These two can be tricky. They both have something to do with upward movement, but in very different ways.
I remember the lesson mentioning a distinction between physical and emotional or psychological movement.
Right. Rise is primarily about physical movement, something literally going up. The sun rises, bread dough rises, a building rises.
Rise is about defying gravity, moving upwards in a tangible way.
Exactly. While arouse is more about stirring emotions, feelings, or even physical sensations. It's about awakening something that was previously dormant.
So arouse is less about literal movement and more about activating something within a person, like sparking an interest or triggering a reaction.
That's a great way to put it. It's about evoking a response, creating a shift in energy or emotion.
It's like rise is about things going up, and arouse is about feelings or sensations going up, becoming more intense.
Precisely. And that distinction can really make a difference in how you use these verbs, especially in writing.
All right, 2 more verbs down. We're making progress.
We're on a roll. Shall we continue our exploration?
Absolutely. Let's keep this verb train moving.
All right, next stop. Advice and advice. Another pair that sounds almost identical, that has different grammatical roles.
Ah, yes, the classic noun versus verb dilemma. I remember learning this rule back in school, but it never quite stuck.
It's one of those rules that can be tricky to remember, but the key is to think about advice as the actual information or guidance being given. It's something tangible, something you can offer or receive.
So like, I need some advice on what to wear to the party, or my dad always gives me good advice.
Perfect examples. Advice is the noun, the thing itself.
And advise is the verb, the action of giving that advice.
Exactly. So you might say, the doctor advised me to rest, or I would advise you to be cautious in this situation.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like advice is the gift, and advise is the act of giving the gift.
I like that analogy. It really captures the difference.
Right, feeling more confident about those two. What's next on our verb adventure?
How about altogether and altogether? These two often get confused because they sound so similar.
Oh, yes. I've definitely mixed those up before. They both seem to have something to do with being together, but I'm not sure about the specifics.
Well, altogether simply means everyone or everything in one place. Like, we were all together for the holidays, or the kids gathered all the toys together.
So all together emphasizes unity, being in a group or a collection.
Exactly. It's about togetherness. Altogether, on the other hand, means completely or entirely. You might say, that's an altogether different matter, or I'm altogether too exhausted to go out tonight.
Altogether is more about intensity or completeness, taking something to its absolute limit.
Precisely. And while the meanings are distinct, sometimes you can use either phrase depending on the emphasis you want to create.
Interesting. So it's like choosing between different shades of the same color, adding a subtle layer of meaning to your sentence.
Exactly. It's all about being aware of those nuances and choosing the words that best convey your intent.
Okay, on to the next verb pair. How about among and between?
Ah, yes. The prepositional pair that often causes confusion. I know people learn the rule about using between for 2 things and among for more than 2, but it's not always that straightforward.
Yeah, I've heard that rule, but it doesn't always seem to apply in real life.
Right. The real distinction lies in the relationship between the things being referred to.
Okay, so it's not just about the quantity, but also about the quality of the connection.
Exactly. Among is used when the relationship is more general, less defined, like being part of a larger group or being surrounded by something.
Among is about being immersed in a larger context, being part of a whole.
Right. While between is used when the relationship is more specific, more defined. It often involves a clear distinction or separation between the things being referred to.
So, like, the secret was shared between the two friends, but the conversation flowed easily among the guests.
Perfect examples. Between creates a more direct one-to-one connection, while among is about being in the midst of a group or a collection.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light. It's about understanding the nature of the relationship, not just counting the number of things involved.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to those subtle nuances that can make a big difference in meaning.
All right, we're in the home stretch now. Only 2 verb pairs left to tackle.
We're almost there. Shall we conquer beside and besides next?
Yes, let's do it. Those 2 always trip me up. They look and sound so similar, but I can never remember which one is which.
Well, the easy way to remember is that beside is strictly about physical location. It means next to or at the side of something.
So, like, the cat sat beside the fireplace, or he stood beside his best friend?
Precisely. It's all about physical proximity. While besides has a broader meaning, it can mean in addition to or apart from.
Okay, so besides is more about adding something extra, expanding the scope of the conversation.
Exactly, like saying, and there's more. Or let's consider other factors.
I think I can remember that. Beside for location, besides for additional information.
You got it. Simple but effective.
All right, ready for the final verb showdown? I'm feeling like a verb champion at this point.
Excellent. Let's end our exploration with a pair that's all about permission and possibility. Can and may.
Ah, yes, the classic verbs of elementary school grammar lessons. I remember being told that may is more polite than can, but I'm not sure I ever understood the real difference.
Well, the politeness distinction is part of it, but there's also a difference in meaning. Can is about ability or possibility. It's about whether something is physically or logically possible.
So can is about what you're capable of doing or what's within the realm of possibility. Like I can swim or it can snow in July.
Exactly. May, on the other hand, is about permission or likelihood. It's about whether something is allowed or whether it's likely to happen.
So may is about getting the green light or making a prediction about the future, like, may I borrow your pen? Or it may rain later today.
Precisely. And while can and may are often used interchangeably in casual conversation, it's important to distinguish between them in formal situations or when you want to be extra polite.
So like when you're asking your boss for a raise, you'd probably want to say, may I speak to you for a moment? Rather than, can I speak to you for a moment?
Exactly. It shows that you're respecting their authority and following proper etiquette.
Okay, I think I finally mastered the can versus may conundrum. What a satisfying feeling.
And a well-deserved victory.
All right, time to tackle those last 6 verb pairs. Ready to finish strong.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Okay, first up, speak and talk. I feel like these 2 are often used interchangeably, but I'm guessing there's a more nuanced distinction.
You're right. There is a subtle difference, primarily in the level of formality.
Okay, so when would you use speak instead of talk?
Speak tends to be more formal, often used in contexts where one person is addressing a group or delivering a prepared message, like giving a speech or a presentation.
So speak has a sense of authority or expertise, like someone speaking from a podium or giving a lecture.
Exactly. Talk is more informal, suggesting a conversational back and forth exchange, like chatting with friends or having a casual discussion.
So talk is more everyday conversation, like what we're doing right now.
Precisely. And that distinction can be seen in other ways, too. You might speak a foreign language fluently, indicating a high level of proficiency, but you might just talk about a topic casually, implying a more general understanding.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference. Speak is more formal and often implies a higher level of skill or knowledge.
Exactly. It's all about those subtle shades of meaning.
All right, on to the next verb pair. How about see, watch, and look?
These 3 can be tricky because they all involve using our eyes, but they have distinct meanings when it comes to how we perceive the world.
Okay, so how do we know when to use which one?
Think of see as the most general one. It simply means to register something with your eyes. It can be unintentional, like when you see a bird fly by while you're walking.
See is like passive observation. You're not necessarily focusing on anything specific, just taking in whatever happens to be in your field of vision.
Right. But when you watch something, you're deliberately paying attention to it, focusing on what's happening, like watching a movie or watching a game.
Watch is more active, more intentional. You're choosing to engage with what you're seeing.
Exactly. And then there's look, which involves directing your gaze towards something specific, like looking at a painting or looking for your keys.
Look is all about purpose. You have a reason for looking, you're searching for something, or trying to get a better view of something.
Precisely. And it's fascinating how these three verbs, see, watch, and look, reflect different levels of engagement with our surroundings.
It's like they highlight the active role we play in shaping our own perceptions. What we choose to focus on, what we choose to ignore it, all shapes how we experience the world.
Absolutely. Our perception is not just passive reception. It's an active process of selection and interpretation.
Okay, on to the next verb pair. Learn and teach. These seem pretty straightforward, but I bet there's more to them than meets the eye.
You're right. They're often seen as opposites, but I think it's important to see how they're interconnected.
I like that. So learn is about acquiring knowledge, taking in new information, expanding your understanding of the world.
Exactly. It's a lifelong process of growth and discovery.
And teach is about sharing your knowledge with others, guiding them on their own learning journeys.
Precisely. And it's amazing how these two processes often go hand in hand. When you teach something, you often find that you learn it even better yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Having to explain something to someone else forces you to really think it through, to clarify your own understanding. It's like the saying goes, when one teaches, one learns twice.
So true. And it highlights the beautiful synergy between learning and teaching. They fuel each other, creating a cycle of knowledge sharing and growth.
All right, on to the next pair. Rise and arouse. I always get these two confused. They both seem to have something to do with upward movement.
You're right, they do. But rise is primarily about physical movement, something literally going up, like the sun rises in the east or the smoke rose from the chimney.
Rise is about things ascending, becoming higher or more elevated.
Exactly. While arouse is about stirring emotions, feelings, or sensations. It's about awakening something that was previously dormant or inactive.
So like the speaker's words aroused a sense of hope in the audience.
Perfect example. Arouse is about triggering a response, creating a shift in energy or emotion.
Okay, so rise is about things going up, and arouse is about feelings or sensations being stimulated or intensified.
You got it. And that distinction can really make a difference in the tone and impact of your writing.
All right, we're down to the last two verb pairs. Let's finish strong. What's next?
How about we tackle advice and advise? They sound almost identical, but one is a noun and one is a verb.
Ah, yes, the classic noun versus verb dilemma. I know the online lesson touched on this, but I always need a refresher.
Well, the key is to remember that advice is the actual information or guidance being given. It's something tangible, something you can offer or receive.
So like, I always appreciate my grandmother's advice, or he gave me some excellent financial advice.
Exactly. Advice is the noun, the thing itself.
And advise is the verb, the action of giving that advice.
Precisely. So you might say, the doctor advised me to get more rest, or I would advise you to be cautious in this situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Advice is the what, and advise is the how. It's like advice is the gift, and advise is the act of giving the gift.
I like that analogy. It really captures the difference.
All right, one last pair to conquer. Bring it on.
Let's finish with a pair that often comes up in questions of permission. Can and may.
Oh, yes, the classic can versus may debate. I remember learning about this in elementary school, but I'm not sure I ever fully grasped the distinction.
Well, the traditional rule is that may is more polite than can when asking for permission. But there's also a subtle difference in meaning.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's break it down.
Can is about ability or possibility. It's about whether something is physically or logically possible.
So can is about what's within the realm of capability, like can you lift that heavy box? Or it can rain tomorrow.
Exactly. While may is about permission or likelihood, it's about whether something is allowed or whether it's likely to happen.
So may is about getting the green light or making a prediction, like, may I leave early today? or it may snow this weekend.
Precisely. And while can and may are often used interchangeably in casual conversation, it's still important to be aware of the distinction, especially in formal settings.
So when in doubt, it's probably best to err on the side of using may if you want to be extra polite or emphasize the request for permission.
Exactly. It shows that you're respecting the other person's authority and following proper etiquette.
Well, we've reached the end of our verb voyage. We've explored 21 confusing English verb pairs, dissecting their meanings, uncovering their nuances, and hopefully dispelling some common misconceptions along the way.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope our listeners feel more confident in their ability to use these verbs correctly and effectively.
Absolutely. Remember, language is a powerful tool, and the more we understand its intricacies, the better we can wield it to express ourselves clearly and persuasively.
Well said. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep playing with the amazing power of words.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of confusing English verbs, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Until next time, happy writing and happy speaking.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So, you're prepping for a trip, getting ready to travel.
It's exciting.
Super exciting, right? You want to make sure you're ready, your English is all set to make the most of that experience.
Yeah.
So we are going on a deep dive into some essential travel vocabulary.
That's fun.
We've got a great resource here. It's nicely organized, breaks it down first by location,
Okay.
airport, hotel, restaurant, you name it. And then within each location, you've got beginner, intermediate, advanced.
I like that.
Yeah, it gives you options, right?
Yeah.
Plus, it even has some sample dialogue, so you can actually hear these phrases in action, hear how they're used.
That's a really practical approach.
Yeah.
Because honestly, learning a language for travel, it's not about, reciting grammar rules perfectly.
Yeah.
It's about confidently handling those real-world situations.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's picture ourselves. We're at the airport.
Okay.
Maybe a little overwhelming, even for seasoned travelers.
Oh, it's true. Busy place. Lots going on.
Yeah, so many people, different languages.
But even having a few basic phrases down can just make such a difference in how smoothly things go.
For sure.
Especially check-in, baggage claim.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple and direct avoids confusion.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what I love about these intermediate phrases? They cover those little things that just make a flight more comfortable.
It's that.
Like how to request an aisle seat.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
For sure. Nobody wants the middle seat on a long flight.
No, you don't. And speaking of potential stress points, knowing how to ask about excess baggage fees,
Oh, yeah.
that could save you some trouble, save you some money at the counter.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, these advanced phrases, they really show you're a seasoned traveler,
Okay.
like confirming baggage allowances beforehand or, navigating that priority boarding process.
You've thought ahead. You're prepared.
So as you're prepared, yeah. What stands out to you about the sample dialogues for this section?
Well, I think the one where you're asking about baggage allowance policy is good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try it out.
Okay.
Imagine you're at the check-in counter.
Okay.
Excuse me. Could you please confirm the baggage allowance policy for international flights?
Certainly. You're allowed 2 checked bags weighing up to 23 kilograms each.
Perfect. See? You're speaking the language of the airport. All right. So we've made it through check-in security. Let's fast forward. We've arrived at the hotel.
Okay.
This is another place where just clear communication can really elevate the experience.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about the essentials, right?
Yeah.
Checking in, getting your key,
Yeah.
figuring out when checkout is.
Yeah. And it's so important to have your reservation details handy, too, in case there's a mix-up.
Good point.
Now, we level up to the intermediate phrases. I'm seeing some really handy ones here.
Like what?
Like asking if breakfast is included.
Oh, always a good one.
Key question. And, just don't be afraid to advocate for your needs, whether it's asking for extra towels, inquiring about amenities. Remember, being polite but assertive can make your stay more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Okay, now these advanced phrases.
All right.
Really impressive.
What do we got?
Requesting late checkout, inquiring about concierge services.
You're traveling in style.
You are. What I like about these phrases is that they show you're interested in more than just the basics,
Yeah.
Like asking for local attraction recommendations, it shows that you want to really experience the destination.
Like a local.
Yeah, like a local. All right, let's put some of these advanced phrases into action.
Okay.
Imagine you've just arrived at your hotel. You want to make the most of your stay.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk, you say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and if you have a moment, I'd love to get some recommendations for local attractions, especially anything within walking distance."
Of course. Here's your key. We also have this great map highlighting nearby points of interest. There's a fantastic local market just a few blocks away. I highly recommend checking it out.
Look at you, settling right in. You've mastered the airport, the hotel, but now I think it's time we talk about one of the best parts of any trip.
What's that?
Food.
Food, absolutely.
It's such an incredible window into a culture.
It is.
And even if your vocabulary is limited, having a few basic phrases can make your dining experiences so much more enjoyable.
For sure.
Ordering from a menu, asking about the price, just navigating those initial interactions can feel so much smoother.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much a simple please and thank you can go, even if that's all the local language you know.
It does. It shows respect.
It does. It shows respect, a willingness to engage.
Yeah.
Now, these intermediate phrases, they're starting to get into some fun territory.
What are we talking about?
Like asking about the specialty of the house.
Oh, good one.
Right.
Yeah.
What a great way to try something new, something exciting.
You discover those hidden gems that way. Not always in the guidebooks.
You do. And requesting recommendations from your server,
Oh, yeah.
it shows that you're open to exploring local flavors.
It does. It shows a willingness to go beyond your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Which can lead to some amazing experiences.
Some really memorable culinary experiences. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, I'm impressed with the level of detail here.
Yeah.
Handling dietary restrictions,
Yeah.
inquiring about wine pairings. You're a foodie expert.
You are.
It's great. And, even if you don't consider yourself a foodie, having a phrase ready for, if your steak's undercooked,
Oh, yeah.
that can be helpful. It's
Yeah.
about being able to communicate your needs clearly, but politely. you
Yeah.
know, even in a slightly awkward situation.
Yeah. And this sample dialogue is a perfect example of that. Let's imagine you're at a lovely restaurant, but you need to check about vegetarian options.
Okay.
Excuse me, are there any vegetarian options on the menu?
Yes, of course. We have a delightful lentil stew and a roasted vegetable pasta that are both quite popular.
So polite and helpful. Now, with our stomachs full, our confidence boosted, I think it's time we head out and explore the city.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yeah. This section is all about giving you the tools to navigate a new place with confidence. From basic directions to figuring out the best way to get somewhere, we've got you covered.
Great. Yeah, and sometimes those unexpected detours lead to the most interesting discoveries.
That's so true. Speaking of detours, I'm really curious about these intermediate phrases for asking about alternative routes or reporting delays. It's like you're anticipating the unexpected.
Exactly. Because, let's be real, travel rarely goes exactly according to plan.
Right.
Being able to adapt on the fly, that's crucial.
It is. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these definitely take things to the next level.
Yeah.
Booking private cars, understanding toll systems, even handling car rentals.
You're a transportation pro.
It's all about giving you that flexibility to explore a destination on your own terms.
I like.
Whether you're sticking to public transport or venturing off the beaten path, having these phrases in your toolkit, it can really empower you.
Okay, let's put our transportation vocabulary to the test.
All right.
Imagine we're at a bustling train station. We need to catch our next train.
Okay.
Excuse me, what time does the next train to your destination depart?
The next train departs from platform 5 at 10:15 a.m. Would you like me to show you where that is?
Wow, we're on our way. Now, we've tackled getting around, but there's another essential part of travel we need to talk about.
What's that?
Shopping.
Oh, yes.
Shopping.
It's such a fun way to experience a new place, whether you're browsing local markets for souvenirs or, seeking out those one-of-a-kind treasures.
Absolutely.
And this section has phrases for every kind of shopping experience, from, simple inquiries to those more nuanced interactions.
Even at that beginner level, having those essential phrases down can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Asking about prices, sizes, do they accept credit cards? It helps you navigate those initial exchanges. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that, even if you don't speak the local language fluently, showing that you're making an effort to communicate respectfully, it can really enhance those interactions.
I agree.
It can. It can. Now, the intermediate phrases, they're all about engaging with the shopping experience more deeply.
Okay.
Expressing interest, asking for assistance, even trying on clothes. It takes things to the next level.
Yeah.
I love how practical these phrases are. Let's be honest, we've all been in that situation where you need to ask, do you have this in a different size? Or can I try this on? Having those phrases ready can be a lifesaver.
It's true. It's about being able to communicate your needs clearly and confidently.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases here?
Well, these are for the true shopping aficionado.
Cool.
Bargaining, inquiring about specific items, even complimenting the craftsmanship.
You're a master negotiator.
And it's about more than just making a purchase.
Yeah.
It's about appreciating the artistry, the cultural significance behind the objects you're buying. Complimenting someone's work can create a special connection.
It's those little moments of human connection that can make a trip so memorable.
For sure.
Now, we've talked about a lot of positive travel scenarios, but it's also important to be prepared for those, just in case moments.
Right.
So let's talk about handling emergencies.
Okay, this is where clear, concise communication is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Knowing a few key phrases can make all the difference in getting the help you need, especially in a stressful situation.
Absolutely. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases. Calling for help, explaining that you need a doctor, reporting a theft.
Right.
It's about knowing how to get your message across in those critical moments.
And even if you don't know a lot of, medical terminology,
Right.
being able to convey some basic information is so helpful.
It is. It is. The intermediate phrases cover things like describing symptoms, explaining allergies, finding the nearest pharmacy.
It's like having a little mini first aid kit
Yes.
of essential phrases.
Ready to go. What stands out to you in the advanced phrases for this section?
Well, these phrases are about being prepared for, more complex medical situations,
Okay.
describing pre-existing conditions, requesting specific medications, even understanding insurance coverage.
Yeah,
It can really put your mind at ease.
it can. It's about being proactive and informed, which can be so empowering, especially when you're far from home.
Exactly.
So let's imagine a scenario where you need to seek medical attention.
Okay.
You walk up to the desk and you say, "Excuse me, I need to see a doctor. I'm feeling unwell and I think I might have a fever."
Certainly, I can help you with that. Is
Yeah.
there a particular type of doctor you need to see?
See, having those phrases ready can make a potentially stressful situation so much more manageable.
Absolutely.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about something a little lighter.
Okay.
Social situations.
Ah, yes. Social interactions, such a vital part of travel.
They are. They allow you to connect with people, learn about different cultures, and create those lasting memories. And this section covers the whole spectrum of social interactions, from basic greetings to those more, in-depth conversations.
At the beginner level, it's all about those foundational phrases. Saying hello, introducing yourself, expressing basic courtesies.
Yeah.
Those are the building blocks of any social interaction.
They are, and I think it's easy to underestimate the power of those simple greetings. Even a warm smile and a hello can go a long way in establishing a connection.
Especially when you're in a new environment.
Yeah.
Those small gestures can make you feel more comfortable and approachable.
They do. They do. Now, the intermediate phrases are about taking those conversations a step further.
Okay.
Asking questions, sharing information about yourself, even expressing opinions.
It's about engaging with the people you meet and learning from their perspectives.
It is. It is. I'm really enjoying these advanced phrases for social situations.
Yeah.
They take things to a whole new level.
They do, don't they? Expressing gratitude, giving compliments, even engaging in a little bit of lighthearted banter. It shows you're really comfortable with the language.
It's about connecting with people on a deeper level and embracing those cultural nuances.
I like that.
Let's try out one of these advanced phrases.
Okay.
Imagine you've just met someone new. You want to keep the conversation going.
Okay.
You say, "Hello, my name is your name. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm visiting from your city. What's your favorite thing about living here?"
It's lovely to meet you too. I love the vibrant energy of this city. There's always something happening and the people are so welcoming.
Wonderful. You've sparked a conversation that could lead to all sorts of new discoveries.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered social interactions, but there's another essential aspect of travel we need to address.
What's that?
Transportation.
Ah, yes. Transportation, the lifeline of any trip.
It is. It's how you get from point A to point B, experience the landscapes, and sometimes even have those unexpected adventures along the way.
That's right.
And this section has everything you need to know, from asking for directions to mastering different modes of transport.
For sure. At that beginner level, it's all about those essential interactions.
Yeah.
Asking about bus or train schedules, purchasing tickets, even requesting assistance with your luggage.
Yeah.
These phrases are your foundation for navigating public transport.
It's amazing how much freedom and flexibility you gain when you know how to confidently use public transportation.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the intermediate phrases in this section?
Well, they're all about being resourceful and adaptable.
Okay.
Asking about alternative routes, clarifying destinations, even reporting delays.
Yeah.
It's about being prepared for those unexpected twists and turns that travel often throws our way.
It's about embracing the unknown and turning those potential challenges into opportunities for adventure.
Yeah, those intermediate phrases are so helpful because even, seasoned travelers,
Yeah,
you can find yourself in those unfamiliar situations.
for sure.
I've definitely had to, double check a route or ask for clarification,
Absolutely. It's all about being comfortable asking for help when you need it.
Yeah.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. Airports, restaurants, shopping, transportation.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one more crucial aspect of travel we need to discuss.
What's that?
Accommodation.
Accommodation. True. That's your home base, right?
It is.
Your sanctuary while you're exploring a new place.
It is. And having the right vocabulary can really make a difference in how comfortable and enjoyable that stay is.
For sure.
This section breaks it down, starts with those basics at the beginner level.
Okay.
Confirming your reservation, requesting your room key, inquiring about those essential amenities.
Yeah,
These phrases really set you up for a smooth check-in experience.
they do. And, those first impressions at a hotel can really shape your whole perception of your stay.
Oh, they can?
Being able to communicate your needs clearly and politely from the get-go, that can make all the difference.
I completely agree. Now, these intermediate phrases are all about taking things a step further, ensuring your comfort throughout your stay, requesting extra towels, reporting any maintenance issues, even asking for a wake-up call.
Yeah, those are the things that can turn a good stay into a great one.
They are. It's about being proactive and addressing any little hiccups that come up.
Right. And remember, most hotels really want to make sure their guests are happy.
Oh, yeah.
So don't hesitate to speak up if something's not right.
Exactly. Speaking of speaking up, these advanced phrases are all about maximizing that accommodation experience.
Okay, what have we got?
Requesting room upgrades, inquiring about concierge services, even providing feedback on your stay.
You're a hotel expert.
I'm trying. And it's about more than just getting the best room or the most luxurious amenities, right?
Right.
It's about being an engaged and informed guest.
Yeah.
Providing that feedback, both positive and constructive, shows that you value the effort that goes into creating that welcoming, hospitable environment.
I like that.
Let's imagine, okay, you've just arrived at your hotel, you want to get settled in, you're curious about the amenities. You say, "Good evening, I have a reservation under your name, and could you tell me a bit about the hotel's amenities? I'm particularly interested in the fitness center and the spa."
Welcome. We have a state-of-the-art fitness center, open 24 hours a day, and our spa offers a variety of treatments and services. We can certainly arrange a tour for you if you'd like.
Look at you, making yourself right at home. Now, we've talked about, positive side of accommodation. Let's be real, sometimes things don't go perfectly smoothly.
True.
So let's talk about how to handle those tricky situations when they arise.
Okay, this is where clear and assertive communication is key.
Yeah. At the beginner level, it's about mastering those essential phrases for reporting a problem, requesting assistance, expressing dissatisfaction.
Right.
It's about making your concerns known in a clear and respectful way.
Yeah. And remember, even if you don't know all the technical terms to describe a problem,
Right.
just being able to explain the situation in simple language can get you a long way.
It can. The intermediate phrases take things a step further, allowing you to describe the problem in more detail, suggest possible solutions, follow up on your request.
Yeah, it's about advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
Making sure your needs are met.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases in this section?
Well, these phrases are for those situations where, a more assertive approach might be necessary.
Okay.
Escalating a complaint, requesting to speak to a manager, even understanding your rights as a guest.
Yeah.
These could be really empowering.
It's about knowing your options, being prepared to stand your ground if you need to.
Right.
But remember, even in those challenging situations, maintaining a polite and respectful tone can go such a long way in achieving a positive outcome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's imagine a scenario. You encounter a problem in your room.
Okay.
You go to the front desk, you say, "Excuse me, I'm afraid there's a problem with my room. The air conditioning isn't working and it's quite uncomfortable."
I apologize for the inconvenience. We'll send someone up right away to take a look. In the meantime, would you like a fan to help cool the room down?
Perfect. You handled that situation with grace and efficiency.
Thank you.
Now, we've covered so much in this deep dive. Airports, hotels, dining, social interactions.
Been the journey.
But there's one more essential ingredient to successful travel that I want to touch on.
What's that?
Cultural awareness.
Cultural awareness. So important.
It is. It's about recognizing and appreciating the diversity of customs, traditions, social norms around the world.
Absolutely.
Approaching every interaction with respect and an open mind.
Yeah.
This section really emphasizes, being mindful, adapting our behavior to the local customs.
Right.
Even at that beginner level, those basic gestures of politeness and respect, like saying please and thank you, can make such a big difference in how you're perceived.
It's true. It's those little acts of courtesy that show you're making an effort to understand and respect the local culture.
The intermediate phrases delve a little bit deeper, navigating social situations, understanding dining etiquette, even being mindful of religious practices.
Right.
It's about being observant, adapting our behavior to those subtle cues.
I agree.
What are your thoughts on the advanced phrases for cultural awareness?
Well, these really highlight the transformative power of, cultural immersion.
Yeah.
Understanding nonverbal communication, appreciating cultural values, even engaging in those meaningful conversations about local traditions.
Yeah.
It's about going beyond the surface and connecting with the heart of a culture.
It's about moving from being a passive observer to an active participant in that cultural landscape.
Like that.
Let's imagine a scenario. You're visiting a temple. You're unsure about the etiquette.
Okay.
You ask, "Excuse me, is it appropriate for me to take photos inside the temple?"
Photography is not permitted inside the temple as a sign of respect for the sacred space.
Yeah.
However, you are welcome to take photos of the exterior architecture.
See, a simple question can help you avoid an unintentional cultural faux pas.
It can?
And it shows a genuine desire to be respectful.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive into English travel vocabulary.
We have.
From navigating those airports and hotels to handling emergencies, immersing ourselves in new cultures, we've equipped you with the phrases, the strategies to confidently handle a whole range of situations.
I hope so.
So as you embark on your next adventure, remember to embrace that power of communication, be respectful of those different cultures, and most importantly, have fun.
Have fun. Safe travels.
Safe travels, everyone, and we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah.
What aspect of travel are you most looking forward to using your newfound English skills for?
Let us know.
Let us know.
All right. Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're diving headfirst into the world of English idioms.
The phrases that, they make you sound like you really know what you're talking about.
Like you're not just learning from a textbook.
Exactly.
We're working with a script, actually, from an English lesson all about these advanced phrases.
And rather than just running through all of them, we thought it would be fun to pick out some of the most colorful ones.
Yeah, the ones that really make you go, that's a cool way to say that.
And try to understand not just what they mean, but how they work, what makes them tick.
Okay, so the first one that jumped out at me, who doesn't love a good secret? But then you've got someone begging you to spill the beans.
Right. Yes, spill the beans. It's all about revealing a secret or a surprise.
Yeah, and it's not just about giving away the information.
No, there's a sense of anticipation, a little bit of mischief maybe even.
Right, imagine you're planning a surprise party.
Oh, yeah?
And everyone's trying so hard to keep it quiet. But you can just see the excitement bubbling over. And that's when you say, come on, spill the beans. Who else is in on this?
Exactly. And the funny thing is, spill the beans, it actually has a really interesting history.
Oh, does it?
It goes all the way back to ancient Greece, where voting, believe it or not, was often done using beans. White beans meant yes, and black beans meant no.
Oh, wow.
So if you, say, accidentally knocked over the container,
you'd be revealing the results, literally spilling the beans.
You got it. Isn't that fascinating? Each of these little phrases,
yeah,
it's like a little window into the past.
Yeah. Speaking of the past, this next one, By the skin of your teeth. I mean, that just paints such a vivid picture in my mind.
It does, and it means barely escaping disaster. Achieving something, but only just...
Yeah, like by the narrowest margin possible.
I always picture someone, like, sprinting to catch a train just as the doors are closing.
Oh, yeah. And they make it on just barely.
Out of breath, heart pounding.
Yeah, and there's this incredible feeling of relief.
That sense of, I can't believe I made it.
Right, like against all odds.
And it's something, we all connect with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We love those stories of close calls and narrow escapes.
Okay, this next phrase isn't quite as triumphant. In fact, it's kind of brutal. Throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, this one definitely has a darker edge to it.
Doesn't it? It implies betrayal, right? Like to save yourself.
Exactly, often at the expense of someone else.
Like in a really cutthroat environment.
You see it a lot, unfortunately, in workplaces, maybe even just in social situations.
Yeah, those times when you need to protect your own reputation, even if it means sacrificing someone else.
Right.
Not a pretty picture. Like taking credit for someone else's work or blaming them for your own mistakes.
Yeah, definitely not a compliment to be thrown under the bus.
Not at all. Okay, let's lighten the mood a bit. What about barking up the wrong tree? I mean, I can't help but smile when I hear that one.
It's such a great visual, isn't it?
It is. Like picturing this dog just going crazy at the base of a tree.
And meanwhile, the squirrel is like way off in the bushes somewhere.
Totally oblivious.
And it's a perfect metaphor for, well, pursuing a mistaken course of action.
Like you're totally on the wrong track.
Yeah, but what I love is the tone. It's often delivered with a kind of a playful, gentle nudge.
It's like, hey, I think you might want to rethink this one, buddy.
Exactly. Speaking of wrong tracks, have you ever noticed how bad luck seems to come in waves?
Oh, yeah. It's like when it rains, it pours.
And that's where add insult to injury comes in.
It's like the universe is piling on.
It is. You lose your keys, your phone dies, you miss the bus, all in the same morning.
It's like, come on, give me a break.
And this phrase really gets at that feeling of, a bad situation becoming even worse.
Like a little extra kick while you're already down.
And I think even though it's describing something negative, there's a certain humor in it.
There is. It's like finding the absurdity in the midst of chaos.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some phrases that are, well, a bit more about everyday life, like run-of-the-mill.
This one's all about the ordinary, the unremarkable.
Yeah, your average Tuesday afternoon kind of stuff.
Nothing special, just the usual.
But there's something to be said for the ordinary.
There is. Like, it's not always about the big, exciting things, right?
Right. Sometimes it's the familiar, the comfortable that we really crave.
Like that local coffee shop you always go to.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy, but it's just...
Right? Exactly. Now, on the flip side, we have a dime a dozen.
Oh, this one's interesting. So this means something is super common, right?
Extremely common, and therefore not very valuable.
It's like those trends that everyone jumps on for 5 minutes and then forgets about.
Oh, yeah. Like, remember fidget spinners?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm.
Those were everywhere and then poof, gone.
A dime a dozen.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, do we value things less when they're easy to get?
That's a good point. Maybe it's a reminder to appreciate what we have, even the simple things.
Right. Because what's common to one person might be a treasure to another.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay, so speaking of valuing what we have, sometimes we need to, hit the ground running.
Ah, yes. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
This one's all about starting strong.
Right. Being ready to go from the get-go. Full speed ahead.
Like starting a new job or launching a big project.
It's that feeling of, I'm prepared, I'm motivated, and I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah. You're not wasting any time.
No hesitation. And I think there's a real sense of enthusiasm in this phrase.
I agree. It's about being excited to tackle a challenge.
It really is. Okay, I think we have time for one more before we take a little break.
Okay, let's go for it.
So this one is, well, it's about reaching a breaking point. You know that moment when you've just had enough?
The last straw. I know exactly what you mean.
That's the one, that final incident that just pushes you over the edge.
I think you've been putting up with something for ages, and then bam, there's one little thing and you snap.
It's the straw that breaks the camel's back, as they say.
And it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Like a series of small annoyances that just build up.
Or one big thing that just sends you over the edge.
And it's a reminder, I think, that we all have our limits.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just got to say, enough is enough.
Well, we'll be back in a moment with even more of these fascinating English phrases.
We're just getting started.
So stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We are uncovering all the mysteries behind these colorful English phrases.
Yeah, these sayings that we use all the time, but maybe haven't really stop to think about.
Right, like where they come from.
Yeah. Or what they really mean.
Exactly.
Okay, so next up we have one that I think everyone can relate to, up in the air.
Ah, yes. Up in the air. It's that feeling of uncertainty. Like when things are undecided, plans are on hold, you're just kind of waiting to see what happens.
It's that feeling of like limbo, almost.
Yeah, it is. Like imagine you're waiting to hear back about a job offer or like a college acceptance.
Oh yeah, those are definitely up in the air moments.
Big time. And your whole life kind of feels like it's hanging in the balance.
It really does. It's nerve-wracking.
But also, there's a sense of possibility too. Things could go either way.
That's true. It could be good or bad. We just don't know yet.
Exactly. Okay, this next phrase, it's not quite as lighthearted. A tough pill to swallow.
Ooh. Yeah, this one is about facing reality, even when it's hard.
Like accepting something you don't want to accept.
But you have to. Like, what if your favorite band broke up?
Oof. Yeah, that would be...
That would be a tough pill to swallow.
For sure, especially if you're a diehard fan.
Right. Or what if you're really hoping for a promotion, but it goes to someone else?
Oh, yeah. Those are those moments where it's like, ugh, okay, got to deal with this.
And sometimes those tough pills, they force us to grow.
That's true. Maybe it's a chance to discover something new, a new path.
Yeah, sometimes you got to close one door to open another one, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Okay, so this next phrase always makes me think of those like epic movie montage scenes, where the hero is training and getting ready for the big challenge.
Oh, pull out all the stops. That's a good one.
That's it. It's about giving something your absolute all, putting in maximum effort.
Yeah, like you're holding nothing back.
Right. Imagine you're planning a huge event like a wedding or a big fundraiser.
You could pull out all the stops to make it amazing.
You got it. It's about going above and beyond, exceeding expectations.
Yeah. No half measures here.
Right. Okay, this next one just conjures up such a vivid image, caught red-handed.
It's like something straight out of a detective movie.
It is. You can practically see the scene, the culprit standing there, the evidence right there in their hands.
There's no denying it, no escape.
They're busted. And there's something about that, that moment of being caught. It's just so dramatic.
Yeah, like the jig is up.
It speaks to our fascination with justice, We want to see the truth revealed.
Okay, so let's talk about go the extra mile. This one's all about effort, isn't it?
It is. It's about going above and beyond what's expected, putting in that extra effort.
Not just doing the bare minimum.
No, it's about exceeding expectations, showing that you really care.
Like if a coworker stays late to help you with a project.
Even though they don't have to.
Yeah, that's definitely going the extra mile.
It can be the little things too, like taking the time to really listen to someone.
Or offering to help out when you see someone struggling.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful, considerate.
Yeah, those little acts of kindness that make a big difference.
Absolutely. And lastly, we have a phrase that perfectly captures, the power of trends.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
This one's about joining the crowd, right?
It is. It's about embracing something that's popular, maybe a new trend, a movement.
Like when a new song comes out and suddenly everyone's listening to it.
Or a new fashion trend emerges and everyone's wearing it.
Yeah, it's like this irresistible force that pulls people in.
And while it can sometimes have a negative connotation, like, oh, you're just following the crowd.
Right.
But it also speaks to this human need to belong.
Yeah, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That tension between individuality and conformity.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here with these 15 phrases.
We have, and it makes you realize just how much richness and depth there is in everyday language.
Yeah, we use these phrases all the time, but maybe we haven't really stopped to appreciate the stories they tell.
The history, the imagery, the emotions they evoke.
It's amazing. But before we wrap up, we have one final thought-provoking question for you.
All right, let's hear it.
What new phrases do you think will emerge in the future? What words and expressions will capture the essence of our times? That's a question that really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
As we wrap up our deep dive into these fascinating phrases,
Yeah.
it really gets you wondering, what will people be saying 100 years from now?
Right. Like what new expressions will they come up with?
Especially with all the technology changing so fast.
Oh, yeah. Like imagine the phrases that might come out of the metaverse or, space travel.
Ooh, space travel. That's a good one.
Like,
We might start saying things like, oh man, I'm feeling so meta fatigued, or, oh, my avatar needs a serious style upgrade.
I love it.
Or like, Imagine phrases inspired by space travel.
Oh, yeah, like, let's blast off to that new restaurant.
Oh.
Or, that movie was a total black hole of boredom.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
And it's not just about new words.
Right. Not at all.
Like, think about how the meaning of viral has completely changed because of social media.
Oh, absolutely. That's a perfect example.
So these phrases, they're not static. They evolve along with us.
That's what makes language so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So as we conclude our deep dive today, I think the biggest takeaway is to stay curious.
Right. Keep your ears open.
Exactly. Pay attention to the way people are speaking, the new words they're using, the creative ways they're expressing themselves.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment with your own language, too.
Right. Try out some of these phrases we've talked about, see how they feel.
You might even invent some new phrases of your own.
You never know. Because language is all about communication, connection, and creativity, right?
Absolutely.
So go out there and have fun with it.
Happy language exploring.
All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously cool stuff with me today?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome, because we are going deep into a 20-minute lesson plan. And this one is all about helping you master intros.
Yeah.
You know, like when you meet someone new.
Oh, yeah.
And sharing your experiences, like how to tell a captivating story. It's all about boosting that conversational charisma so you can ditch those awkward silences and connect with people like a pro.
You know what I find really interesting about this plan? It's not just about memorizing lines or, like a script.
Yeah.
It's about understanding like the psychology behind a truly great introduction.
Oh, totally.
And they really walk you through it step by step, from like warming up those conversational muscles to actually role-playing scenarios. So it's like you're not just learning the theory.
Right.
You're building real confidence in those practical skills you can actually use out in the wild.
I love that. And you know what else I love?
Right.
How they kick things off with an icebreaker activity.
Uh-huh.
It's so simple, but so clever. Okay, so picture this. You pair up with someone and you share a unique fact about yourself, something that most people wouldn't guess. Like a little treasure hunt of personal trivia, right?
I like that.
So what's something most people wouldn't guess about you?
Oh, wow. Putting me on the spot already.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I used to be a competitive ballroom dancer.
No way.
Yeah, it's true.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It gets you thinking, and it's a fantastic way to break the ice without feeling like all eyes are on you, you know?
It's true, and it subtly shifts everyone's mindset from feeling like, oh gosh, I have to perform or say something super clever.
Exactly.
To realizing that, hey, everyone has something interesting to share. It creates this instant sense of camaraderie, and it sets the stage for, more genuine sharing as the conversation goes on.
It's like a warm-up for your soul.
I like that.
So, okay, you're all warmed up, feeling good. Now it's time to level up your vocabulary.
Okay.
This plan introduces 5 advanced expressions that, let's be honest, make you sound incredibly sophisticated. It's like giving your intros a linguistic makeover.
Love it.
So the first one is, I hail from.
Ooh, fancy.
Now, doesn't that sound so much more intriguing than just saying I'm from?
Definitely paints a more vivid picture.
Right.
Instead of just stating a location, you're evoking a sense of origin and background.
Yes.
Remember the example they used? I hail from a small town nestled in the rolling hills of Tuscany.
Oh, stop it.
Suddenly, you're not just from Italy, you're from a place with history, with charm. Maybe even some delicious pasta.
I'm already picturing the vineyards.
Right.
And it's not just about sounding fancy. It's about being memorable. Which brings us to the next phrase I'm passionate about. It's engaging, and it tells people what lights you up.
What's interesting here is that it's not just about listing hobbies.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your enthusiasm and even hinting at the values that drive you.
That's a good point.
So, for example, instead of saying, I like photography,
right,
you could say, I'm passionate about capturing the fleeting beauty of everyday moments.
Ooh, I like that.
It adds depth and personality.
It's like you're not just taking pictures. You're an artist capturing those little moments in time.
Exactly.
Now, this next phrase is a conversation starter. One thing that shaped me was it's an invitation to share a pivotal moment in your life and show how you've evolved.
It's a powerful way to create a connection by revealing a piece of your personal journey. And it doesn't have to be, some grand life-altering event.
Right.
The example they use is, one thing that shaped me was learning to play the guitar as a teenager.
Oh,
It's relatable, it's intriguing, and it makes you want to know more.
It's like a sneak peek into the experiences that have made you who you are today.
Exactly.
And for those of us who like to explore different interests I've dabbled in.
Ooh, like that one.
It's a more playful way to acknowledge experiences that might not define you, but have still enriched your life, you know?
Yeah, I think this phrase is particularly useful in more informal settings. It allows you to showcase your curiosity and willingness to try new things without feeling like you have to be an expert in everything.
Oh, totally.
Imagine saying, I've dabbled in pottery, and let's just say I'm much better at appreciating art than creating it. A little self-deprecating humor, which can instantly put people at ease.
That's a great point. Humor can be such a powerful tool for connection.
It really can.
Now, this last phrase is all about self-awareness. If I had to describe myself in 3 words.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Talk about a challenge, right? It forces you to distill your essence and think critically about how you want to present yourself to the world.
It's a great exercise in personal branding.
It is.
The example they give is curious, creative, and compassionate.
Nice.
And notice how these words not only describe personality traits, but also suggest values and a way of approaching the world.
It's like a mini mission statement for your life.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this arsenal of impressive vocabulary, but how do we actually use it to craft a killer introduction?
That's the big question, right?
Well, that's where the guided practice section comes in.
Okay.
This is where they give you a structured template and an example introduction that flows beautifully.
I love a good template.
Me too. Because, sometimes you just need that little bit of structure.
This template is so valuable because it helps you avoid those dreaded ums and ahs, the ones that can creep in.
Oh, yeah.
And make you sound less confident.
Totally.
It provides a framework to follow so your thoughts can flow more naturally, making you sound polished and prepared.
It's like having training wheels for your conversation.
Aha. I love that.
And the example they give, it's golden. It goes something like this. Hi, I'm Elena. I hail from sunny Barcelona, Spain. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer for a startup. One thing that shaped me was traveling solo for 6 months through Southeast Asia. If I had to describe myself in 3 words, I'd say I'm curious, adventurous, and a bit of a coffee fanatic.
I love how effortlessly it weaves those advanced phrases in. You get a sense of Elena's personality, her background, even a hint of her values, all in a few sentences.
It's like a condensed movie trailer for Elena's life.
Right. So concise, engaging makes you want to learn more.
Exactly. Okay, introductions. Check. Now let's talk storytelling, the heart of good conversation.
This is where we go beyond just stating facts. We start weaving them into a compelling narrative, right?
Yes. And the lesson plan breaks it down so well. A simple 3-part structure.
The start, middle, and end.
Which sounds obvious, but having that clear framework makes all the difference when you're trying to, hook people with your story.
It's like building a house. You need that solid foundation, the well-constructed frame, and the roof to tie it all together.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
So for the start, you set the scene, introduce the characters.
Then in the middle, you describe the event, what made it significant.
And finally, at the end, you share the outcome and what you learned from the whole experience.
They use a great example of running a marathon to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
The story starts with the decision to run despite not being a runner at all.
Right.
The middle dives into those challenges, the self-doubt that come up during training.
And that feeling when you just want to give up.
Exactly. And then the end focuses on the triumph of crossing that finish line and that valuable lesson learned about pushing past your perceived limits.
See, it's such a relatable story because I think everyone has had those moments where they're like, I can't do this.
We've all been there.
But then you find that inner strength and you keep going. But what makes this story so effective is the details.
Yeah, the details are everything.
Describing the feeling of wanting to quit at mile 18 or that overwhelming sense of accomplishment at the finish line.
Exactly. It's those details that bring the story to life and let the listener connect with the emotions behind it.
It's not just what happened, it's how it made you feel.
Right.
Okay, so structure, we got it. But what about delivery? How do we make sure our stories land with impact?
That's where the role-playing activity comes in.
Ooh, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. So the lesson plan has, you imagine you're at a networking event, okay? And you have to introduce yourself and share a story or an interesting fact.
I can see how some people might be hesitant to role play.
Oh, for sure. It can feel awkward, especially if you're not used to putting yourself out there.
But isn't that kind of the point, to get comfortable with those feelings and develop the confidence to share your story, even when you're feeling a bit vulnerable?
Absolutely. It's like any skill, the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Yeah.
And the beauty of role-playing is that safe environment. You know, you can experiment, get feedback, refine your approach without the pressure of a real-life situation.
It's like a dress rehearsal before opening night.
Exactly. And speaking of wrapping things up, the lesson plan ends with reflection and homework. They encourage you to identify a phrase or technique you enjoyed using, even write a detailed introduction for the next class.
So it's like learning is an ongoing process.
Precisely. It's not just about memorizing a few phrases or practicing a couple introductions. It's about developing that growth mindset and constantly seeking ways to improve your communication skills.
You're always leveling up.
Exactly. This lesson plan gives you the tools, but it's up to you to keep using them and refining your approach over time.
You know what's really hitting me is that this lesson plan, it's not just about becoming a smooth talker.
Right.
It's about becoming a better communicator overall,
Oh, absolutely.
which honestly can benefit you in every single aspect of life.
Think about it. How many times have you struggled to articulate your thoughts or feelings,
All the time.
or felt like you weren't really connecting with someone?
Yeah.
This lesson plan gives you the tools to bridge those communication gaps and build stronger, more meaningful relationships.
It's funny, we often think of communication as something that just, happens
Yeah.
naturally, but it's really a skill.
It is.
And like any skill, it takes practice and intention to develop.
What I find fascinating is that even though we communicate all the time, constantly,
Yeah.
we rarely take the time to actually analyze how we do it.
That's so true.
This lesson plan encourages you to become more mindful of your communication style and to identify areas where you can improve.
So it's like having a personal trainer, but for your communication skills.
Exactly.
It helps you pinpoint your strengths, work on your weaknesses, and ultimately become a more confident and effective communicator.
And the best part is you can see the results in real time, you
Right.
know? As you practice these techniques, you'll notice that conversations flow more easily, connections deepen, and misunderstandings become less frequent.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listener with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Don't just file this information away, put it into practice. I challenge you to try out one of these techniques today.
Yes, don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Start small.
Maybe you try out one of those power phrases at your next meeting,
Ooh, good one.
or share a story with a friend using that start, middle, and end structure we talked about.
Pay attention to how people respond. You might be surprised by the impact a few well-chosen words or a well-told story can have.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Communicating shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be an opportunity to connect, to share, and to express yourself authentically.
Every conversation is a chance to learn and grow. So embrace those opportunities and watch as your communication skills blossom.
You got this. We have absolute faith in your ability to become a more confident and engaging communicator. Until next time, happy connecting. Okay, so let's be real for a sec. Small talk, right? It can be like the most awkward thing ever. Like when you're stuck in a situation and you know you should be chatting, but your mind just goes blank. Anyone else? Feel me on that. But get this. What if I told you that this deep dive could actually turn that dread into pure confidence? And we're going to do it using a source you'd never expect. A video script, get this, for people learning English.
I know, right? Sounds a little out there. But seriously, this script is full of stuff that goes way deeper than just language. It's like a secret masterclass in how humans connect, hidden inside an English lesson.
Okay, I got to admit, when you first mentioned this source, I was kind of like, how can something for total beginners help someone who's already fluent?
That's fair, totally. But the cool thing here is, by breaking small talk down into these simple steps, it actually shows you the psychology behind how we connect. Like, it's a cheat sheet for building rapport, even if you never needed help with English in the first place.
So it's more about understanding the deeper game, not just memorizing lines.
Exactly. For example, the script makes a big deal about greetings and weather talk, stuff we might think is just filler.
Yeah, I always thought that stuff was kind of pointless.
Right. But they actually serve a super important purpose. Like, humans are literally wired to bond over shared experiences.
Okay.
Even something as simple as complaining about the heat or, whatever the weather's doing,
Okay, yeah, I guess I can see that.
it creates that instant common ground, that we're in this together feeling, which is huge for starting any kind of connection.
Wow, that's actually so true. I never thought about it that way.
And the script goes even further. Instead of those boring old greetings like, "Hi, how are you?" it gives you phrases that fit the specific situation so you get a better response.
Oh, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
So say you're at a party. Instead of that robotic, "Hi, how are you?" try something like, "What brings you here?"
Way more interesting, right?
Way more. It's like you're actually interested, not just saying words. Exactly. It shows you're paying attention, and they actually get to share something about themselves. It's what they call a strong bid in, like conversation analysis stuff. Each thing we say is a bid to connect.
Ooh, I'm digging this bidding concept. So we're all just out here trying to make the strongest bid to connect.
Totally. And this script is giving us all the winning moves. Another one they have is instead of just saying nice weather, you could say something like, this weather's crazy, right?
It's like inviting the other person in on the joke. I like it.
Yeah.
So it's making small talk feel, I don't know, less robotic. But what really stood out to me was the role-playing part.
Ah, yes. That's where the magic really happens. The people who made this script, they get it. Knowing the right words isn't enough. You got to actually practice using them. And role-playing is the best way to do that.
But what if you don't have someone to practice with? Isn't that kind of, I don't know, weird to do alone?
For sure. But you can totally do it in your head. It's called mental rehearsal. Basically, you just picture yourself in different situations.
Hold on. So you're saying by just imagining myself rocking these small talk moments, I'm actually getting better at it in real life.
You got it. Might sound a little strange, but neuroscientists have found that when you rehearse something mentally, your brain fires up the same way it does when you're actually doing the thing.
No way. That's so cool. It's like training your brain for social situations, like a cheat code for confidence. I'm already feeling less terrified about networking events or, just parties in general.
It's crazy, right? How powerful our brains are. Like, this script really shows you how to use that power to, level up your social skills.
I like that, level up. So we've talked about greetings, weather talk, even practicing in your head. What else does this script have up its sleeve?
Okay, so one thing that really impressed me was the questions. They go way beyond those typical boring questions like, where are you from? Or what do you do? The usual suspects.
Yeah, those can be so snooze fest sometimes.
Right. Instead, they give you all these questions that are actually interesting, designed to, spark real conversations.
Okay, I'm all about those real conversations. Tell me more. Give me the good stuff.
So instead of asking, what do you do? Which can feel kind of like a job interview, they suggest asking, what do you like to do for fun?
I mean, that's a classic for a reason, right? It gets people talking about what they're actually passionate about.
Exactly. It's like you're inviting them to show you their real selves, not just their, LinkedIn profile. And if you really want to go deeper, you could try something like, what's the most interesting thing you've done lately?
Ooh, I like that one. It's like a sneak peek into their adventures. You might even discover you have some cool stuff in common.
Totally. Plus, it shows you're actually curious about them, not just trying to fill the silence. And they even have specific questions for different situations. Like, if you're at a dinner party, you could ask, have you tried any good restaurants lately?
Perfect. Everyone loves talking about food. Instant conversation starter, right there.
It's true. It's something we can all relate to, like enjoying a good meal. Okay, so we've covered greetings, weather talk, asking interesting questions, even mental rehearsal. But what about when you're ready to, make your escape? Does the script help with that too?
Yeah, like how do you end a conversation without being rude?
Don't worry, they got you covered. They have a bunch of different closing phrases depending on the situation. From a simple, it was nice talking to you, to something more like, hey, we should grab coffee sometime.
Oh, I love that they include those follow-up suggestions.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really do click with someone, and it's good to have a way to, keep things going.
Exactly. It shows you're confident and interested, which is always a good look. And even if they can't meet up, it still leaves a good impression. They'll remember you as someone who actually wanted to connect.
Yeah, it's like planting a seed, right? You never know where those initial conversations might lead. What about those times when you just need a quick, casual exit, though, like you're running late or something?
No problem. They have those too. They suggest things like, catch you later or have a great day. Those are perfect for keeping it light and friendly without feeling like you have to, hang around forever.
Okay, so whether you're aiming for a lifelong friendship or just a quick chat, it sounds like this script has given us a whole toolbox for navigating the social world.
Yeah. It's like they took all the guesswork out of small talk and gave us a clear path to follow. It's pretty amazing.
And what's so cool is that this script, even though it's for people learning English, it actually shows us some really deep things about human connections, like a reminder that we all want to feel understood, even in those little everyday conversations.
So true. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so valuable. We're not just learning phrases, we're learning about what makes us human and how even a short conversation can make a difference, create a ripple effect.
It's like we're seeing the world through a whole new lens now, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us to the best part, putting it all into practice. We've talked about a lot today, the different phases of small talk, how to make a bid for connection, even practicing in your head. But now it's your turn, dear listener. Take these ideas and make them your own.
Yes. This is where the real transformation happens. We've given you the tools. Now it's up to you to use them. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. The goal isn't to become some kind of small talk robot.
Exactly. Be yourself, be genuine, and use these techniques to connect with people in a real way. So let's recap the top 3 things we've learned from this unexpected deep dive into, well, mastering small talk. First, small talk isn't just random. There's a structure you can follow to make those conversations flow.
Second, the words you use actually matter. This script has given us tons of phrases that are interesting, thoughtful, and perfect for different situations.
And third, practice, practice, practice. Whether you're practicing in your head or even role-playing with a friend, the more you do it, the more confident and natural you'll become.
It really is like freeing, right?
Yeah.
Knowing you have these tools, it takes away that fear of like messing up or saying the wrong thing.
For sure. It's like having this, I don't know, secret weapon for social situations. And honestly, the biggest thing I'm taking away from this is small talk doesn't have to be something you dread. It can actually be like fun, a way to connect with people,
100%. What about you? What's sticking with you from all this? What did you find most helpful from looking at this script?
It's funny. I think what resonated most was realizing that everyone, even people who seem super outgoing, they've probably felt that awkwardness too. This script shows that small talk is a skill, like something you can learn and get better at, just like anything else.
Right. It's not like some people are born knowing how to do it and others aren't.
Exactly. It takes so much pressure off. You can just approach those conversations with curiosity, like a little game. Just see what happens.
I love that. A little game. It really can be like an adventure.
Yeah.
Discovering something new about someone, even if it's just a tiny thing.
And it reminds you that even those small moments, a quick chat, a smile, they can all make a difference. It's like we're all connected in this big web, and every conversation adds to that,
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into, well, the surprisingly interesting world of small talk, I want to leave you with this. Think about the next time you are in a situation where you know there's going to be some small talk. Maybe it's a party or a work event, even just grabbing coffee. What are you most excited to try out from all the stuff we talked about?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
And hey, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just be yourself, be genuine, and see what happens. You might be surprised how fun and even meaningful those small conversations can be. So go out there and conquer the world of small talk. We believe in you. Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at idioms for expressing feelings.
Oh yeah, idioms. Those are fun.
Yeah, and I think they can be kind of tricky to learn, especially for people who are, learning English as a second language.
Definitely.
So we're going to try to break them down and make them a little bit easier to understand. And we're going to be using this awesome source material that's organized by emotion.
That's smart.
Yeah. So we'll start with happiness, then we'll move on to sadness, anger, love, and affection, and even embarrassment and shame.
Wow, the whole gamut.
Yeah, the whole emotional roller coaster. So buckle up and get ready for a fun ride.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's dive right in and start with happiness.
Okay.
One of the most common idioms for happiness is over the moon. Like, I was over the moon when I got the job.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But where does that even come from? Like, is there really someone living on the moon who's just like super happy all the time?
Uh-huh. Well, some linguists think it might actually be connected to that image of the man on the moon from folklore. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like happiness just launches you right up there with it.
No, never thought of it that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so another classic happiness idiom is tickled pink. Like, I was tickled pink when I received that unexpected gift.
It's a cute one.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds a little old-fashioned to me.
It is an older idiom. It actually dates back to the 19th century.
Really?
Yeah. And get this, it used to be tickled pink and blue.
Pink and blue.
Yeah. No one really knows why the blue got dropped, but maybe it
Yeah.
just didn't sound as good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to another idiom that I feel like I use all the time. On cloud nine.
Oh, yeah, another classic.
Yeah, like I was on cloud nine after my vacation.
It really captures that feeling of pure bliss.
Yeah, like you're just floating on air.
Well, funnily enough, even cloud nine has its roots in something pretty practical, meteorology.
Meteorology, you mean like the weather?
Exactly. Early weather maps used to number cloud formations, and the highest, most impressive type was number 9. Wow, so being on cloud 9 is like being at the top of the weather chart.
Pretty much. It symbolizes peak happiness.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah, idioms can come from the most unexpected places.
Okay, so we've covered over the moon, tickled pink, and on cloud nine. What other happiness idioms do we have in our source material?
Let's see. We have in high spirits and walking on air.
Ooh, I like walking on air. It really paints a picture.
Yeah, it emphasizes that light, buoyant feeling of intense happiness.
But would you ever use walking on air in a formal setting?
That's a good question. Probably not. It might sound a little too casual.
Yeah, like you wouldn't say, I'm walking on air about this business deal.
Right, exactly. It's all about matching your language to the situation.
So it's kind of like choosing the right outfit for the occasion.
Exactly. You wouldn't wear a ball gown to the grocery store.
True, very true. Okay, so before we move on to sadness, is there anything else we should keep in mind about these happiness idioms?
Well, I think it's important to remember that they often have slightly different shades of meaning.
Oh, like what do you mean?
Well, for example, over the moon implies a more intense, almost ecstatic happiness,
Right.
while tickled pink suggests a gentler, more playful kind of delight.
So it's not just about knowing the definition, it's about understanding the nuance.
Exactly. It's like choosing the right spice to add to your dish.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not just learning words, we're becoming language chefs.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, so now that we've explored the sunny side of things, are you ready to dive into the blue hues of sadness?
Let's do it.
All right, bring on the tissues.
All right, so we're ready to dive into sadness idioms.
Yeah, let's get those tissues ready.
Haha. All right, well, let's start with a really common one, down in the dumps. Like, I've been feeling down in the dumps ever since I lost my job.
Yeah, that one's a classic. But I always wondered, does it actually have anything to do with being in a literal garbage dump?
Uh-huh. That's a good question. Well, some linguists believe it might come from the Dutch word domp.
Dump.
Yeah, it means dull or gloomy, so it's more about that heavy, listless feeling than an actual location. Huh.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not about being surrounded by trash. It's about feeling like trash.
Pretty much.
Okay, another sadness idiom that uses color is feeling blue.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but it seems a bit milder than down in the dumps, right?
You're right. Feeling blue usually suggests a more temporary sadness.
Like a passing cloud.
Exactly. While down in the dumps implies something a bit more persistent.
Like a storm cloud.
Yeah, good analogy. And it's interesting how colors can be so powerful in conveying emotions.
Makes me wonder if blue is associated with sadness in other cultures too.
That's a great point. Actually, in some cultures, yellow or even purple are associated with sadness.
Really?
Yeah, it just goes to show how language and culture are so intertwined.
Okay, so we've got 2 shades of blue sadness. What else do we have?
Well, there's a heavy heart.
Oh yeah, like she had a heavy heart after her grandmother passed away.
Exactly. It uses that physical weight metaphor to convey a deep sadness, often associated with loss.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And then we have crying over spilled milk.
Oh yeah, my mom used to say that one all the time.
It's a classic. But it can be a bit controversial, right?
Yeah, like what if the milk was really important?
Haha. Well, the point of the idiom isn't really about the milk. It's about accepting what's happened and moving on.
So don't dwell on the past?
Right. It's about focusing on the future.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the last sadness idiom we have?
Let's see. It's hit rock bottom.
Oh, that one sounds pretty intense.
Yeah. It's definitely reserved for those moments of utter despair and hopelessness.
Like when you feel like there's nowhere lower to go.
Exactly. It's the emotional equivalent of being at the very bottom of a deep, dark pit.
Okay, well, we've certainly explored the full spectrum of sadness with these idioms.
Yeah, from those fleeting blue moments to the crushing weight of despair.
I'm ready for a little pick-me-up now.
Yeah.
How about we move on to some more heartwarming idioms?
Sounds good to me. Let's explore the language of love and affection.
Okay, I'm feeling a little warmer and fuzzier already.
Or,
All right, so we've made it through the ups and downs, the highs and lows of all these emotion idioms.
yeah, quite a range, right?
Yeah. And you know what I think is really cool? How these idioms, they really add a lot of like personality to the language.
Definitely. They're like little bursts of color.
Exactly. It's not just like saying I'm happy. It's like I'm on cloud 9.
Right. It's so much more expressive.
Yeah. And it's not just about memorizing a bunch of phrases either. It's about understanding like the nuances,
Oh, for sure. The origin.
the context, all that stuff.
Yeah, like you wouldn't use kick the bucket to describe someone winning the lottery.
No, definitely not. That'd be a bit confusing.
Yeah, so it's about choosing the right idiom for the right situation.
It's like having a whole toolkit of expressions.
Exactly. And the more you use them, the more comfortable you'll become.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. And you know what? Even if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
That's right.
Just laugh it off.
Yeah, language is all about having fun.
And experimenting.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I just hope that people will walk away from this with a new appreciation for idioms.
Yeah.
They're really powerful tools for communication.
And don't forget, language is always changing.
Oh, for sure.
So keep your ears open. You might hear some brand new idioms out there.
Yeah. Who knows, maybe you'll even invent one yourself.
That's a great thought. Okay, well, that about wraps up our deep dive into idioms for expressing feelings.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And we'll catch you next time for another linguistic adventure.
Ever get that feeling like you're swimming in an ocean of words and you just wish you had a life raft or something, some kind of cheat sheet to make sense of it all? What if I told you that by focusing on just a tiny sliver, a really small percentage of those words, you could actually unlock a huge chunk of understanding?
Well, that's kind of the premise behind what we're diving into today. We're leaving behind all those fancy, obscure terms, and we're not even getting bogged down in the grammar rules for now. Today, it's all about the core, the absolute essentials, the 1,000 most common words in the English language.
And we're basing this on research from, EF Global site, a pretty reputable source when it comes to language learning.
Exactly. Now, I know 1,000 words might still sound like a lot to wrap your head around.
Right.
But the thing is, this isn't just some random assortment of vocabulary. This list is built on data, on how often these words actually show up in real-life communication in English.
Yeah, how much they get used day in and day out.
Precisely. So our mission today isn't to turn you into a walking dictionary, to, have you memorize this entire list.
No flashcard drills here.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to try to unpack what the sheer frequency of these words tells us about the English language itself, about its fundamental structure, its priorities, the backbone of how it all works.
Kind of a peek behind the curtain of language, you could say.
Exactly. And trust me, this stuff can get surprisingly fascinating.
I think so.
Even if you're not, sitting in a classroom studying English right now.
Right.
If you encounter English at all in your daily life, if you work with it, if you just have a general interest in language.
Right.
Or yeah, of course, if you're learning it, getting a grasp on the power of these core words can really open your eyes to how language functions.
So let's jump right into this idea of frequency, right?
Right.
What does it actually mean that these are the most common words? It's not like they're the fanciest or the most sophisticated, right?
Not necessarily, no. But it is about statistics. It's about the data, showing that these words pop up again and again, much more frequently than others.
It's almost like they're the workhorses of the language.
Exactly. They're doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of impact does that have, focusing on these linguistic workhorses, these most common words?
Well, the impact is actually pretty significant. While the EF data we're looking at doesn't give us specific percentages,
Right.
it's a well-established fact in linguistics that a really small core vocabulary, a relatively small number of words, accounts for a disproportionately large percentage of the words we actually use and encounter, both in speaking and in writing.
Oh, that's interesting. So a small group of words punches way above its weight.
Exactly. It's like, imagine building with Legos, right? And you've got all these different bricks.
Yeah, all shapes and sizes.
But there are certain bricks, certain shapes and sizes that you find yourself reaching for again and again.
Right, those classic blocks.
Those are your most versatile bricks, your most frequently used ones. And mastering those, understanding how they fit together, that gives you an incredible foundation for building anything you can imagine. It's the same with language.
That makes sense. So the EF list, it presents these 1,000 words alphabetically, which is logical enough, I guess, as a starting point.
Right, there's a good way to organize them.
But for our deep dive today, I think it's actually way more revealing to look at them in categories, to group them based on their function and meaning.
Absolutely.
And the first thing that just jumps out at me when I look at this list is the sheer number of what I think of as like the glue words of the language.
The glue words, I like that.
You know, the words that hold everything together. We're talking articles like a and the.
Right.
Prepositions like in, on, at, to, from.
Yeah.
All those conjunctions like and, but, or.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pronouns he, she, it, you. They are everywhere.
It's true. And what's so fascinating about these seemingly tiny, almost invisible words is how incredibly essential they are for creating clear communication. Like, just think about the for a second. It instantly signals that you're talking about a specific noun, not just any noun. It narrows things down immediately.
Right.
And then you've got prepositions, which define relationships between things.
Right.
Relationships in space, in time, even in logic. The book is on the table versus the book is under the table. Those prepositions tell you completely different things about where that book is.
Yeah, the relationship between the book and the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And conjunctions, they allow us to link ideas together, to show contrasts, to add information, to present alternatives.
And, but, or.
Exactly. Imagine trying to express a complex thought without those words. It would be like trying to build a house without any nails or screws.
Yeah.
It would just fall apart.
Or like a Lego creation without those little connecting pieces.
Exactly. It would just be a jumble of bricks.
It's just a pile. So really, their high frequency, the fact that these words are so common, it just underscores how much language is about relationships, about connections between things.
Absolutely. It's about creating meaning through those connections.
Okay, so we've got the glue.
The glue.
But what about the engines? The words that really drive the action of our sentences?
Ah, yes, the verbs.
The verbs. The list is packed with them. Be, have, do, say, go, make, note, take, see, and come. Just to name a few, it's kind of hard to even picture forming a thought without reaching for one of these.
It really is. These verbs, they represent such fundamental actions, states of being, even possession. And their versatility is incredible.
Yeah, just think about how many ways you can use a word like go, for example.
Oh, absolutely. You can go to the store, you can go crazy, you can go without, you can go on. And each one of those phrases paints a completely different picture.
Different nuances.
Exactly. So the prominence of these verbs, these action words, really highlights how dynamic English is, how much emphasis it puts on doing and being.
Action and existence.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, in languages where verb conjugation, where changing the verb to match the subject and the tense is less complicated.
Yeah.
Do they express some of these concepts in fundamentally different ways?
Yeah.
Maybe relying more on the context or other grammatical structures. It's an interesting question.
Oh, that's a really good question. It's like each language has its own way of carving up meaning. So we've talked about glue words, verbs. What about the things we're actually talking about? The nouns.
The nouns, yes.
And again, the list is full of these everyday essentials. Time, people, way, year, day, thing, man, woman, child, house, work. It seems to reflect those core elements of human experience, wouldn't you say?
I think that's a great observation. The frequency of these nouns, it kind of offers a snapshot of our daily lives, of our concerns, our interactions.
Yeah, the stuff we think about and talk about all the time.
Exactly. Like time is this constant framework for everything we do.
We're always thinking about time.
People are at the heart of our social world. And then you've got work, which for many people occupies a significant portion of their time, their identity even.
Yeah, what you do for a living.
Their prominence on this list, it just suggests those fundamental realities that shape our conversations, and even our understanding of the world around us.
So, okay, we've got the glue words, the verbs, the nouns. But a sentence made up of just those would be pretty bland, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would lack a certain
It
something.
would be kind of like a black and white sketch. What about the words that add color, that add detail, the adjectives and adverbs?
Ah, yes. Those descriptive words that bring everything to life.
Right. And we see plenty of those on the list. Good, new, first, last, long, great, little, and then adverbs like also, very often, however. They might not be the stars of the sentence, but they're doing a lot of important work behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Those modifiers allow us to be much more precise in our language, more expressive.
Yeah.
A good day conveys a very different feeling than a bad day. And running quickly paints a different image in your mind than simply running.
You get a better sense of what's going on.
Exactly. The frequency of adverbs like however is particularly interesting, I think. It suggests that in English, there's a real need to express contrast, to show nuance, to consider different perspectives.
Right.
It kind of points to a culture of discussion and debate, of weighing different options.
Always looking at both sides of the coin.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered those more basic building blocks, but there's another category on this list that I find really intriguing, and these are the words that relate to broader societal structures, to abstract concepts. We're talking words like government, company, school, education, health, problem, question, answer, idea, and information.
Yeah, those are interesting ones.
It's like they offer a glimpse into the institutions and the intellectual pursuits that are central to, to English-speaking societies.
Absolutely. And it's not just that they're present, it's how much weight they carry. Their frequency on this list speaks volumes.
Right. like you mentioned earlier, the prominence of information in the list really says something about our current age, our information-driven society.
It really does. And the presence of words like problem and question right alongside it, that might suggest a certain cultural tendency towards analysis, towards problem solving, towards questioning the status quo. It's like this list is a subtle fingerprint, revealing something about the values and priorities of English-speaking cultures.
That's fascinating. And it's almost as interesting to think about what's not prominently featured on this list. You won't find a ton of specialized jargon, words from very specific professions or niche hobbies, right? This really does focus on that shared foundation of language, those words we all use to communicate.
That's a really key point. This list isn't meant to be comprehensive. It's not a dictionary. It's more like, the basic toolkit you need to start building.
The essential tool.
Exactly. If you're a botanist, you're going to need a whole other set of specialized vocabulary to talk about plants.
Right. Specific terms.
But those core words, those 1,000 most common words, those are still going to be essential for you to communicate with other botanists, to explain your research to people outside your field, to write about it, to think about it. It's the common ground.
The foundation. So, okay, let's shift gears a little bit here.
Okay.
And talk to the listener directly. Whether you're actively studying English right now or you just want to get a better handle on how it works, how can you actually use this list as a tool? It is just a list of words on a page, after all.
Right. Well, the EF Global site itself offers some practical suggestions, like using flashcards or other memory aids to get familiar with the words. But honestly, I think the most valuable approach is to simply start paying more attention to how those words show up in the English you're already encountering. Whether you're reading an article, watching a video, or even just listening to a conversation about something that interests you. Yet try to tune in to how often these core words pop up. You might be surprised by how much of the meaning they carry, even in really complex sentences.
So it's almost like a little mental game.
Exactly. It's about active observation.
Right.
And it's not just about recognizing the word, knowing its basic definition from the dictionary.
Right. It's not about just memorizing.
Exactly. A word like take, for example, can have so many different meanings depending on the context, on the words it's paired with.
So many different uses.
Exactly. So it's about understanding the nuances, the different ways these words function grammatically. Pay attention to how prepositions change the meaning of verbs, like take off versus take in.
Right.
Or how the same noun can be used in all these different situations. It's about developing a flexible understanding of how these words work, not just a rote memorization of their definitions.
It's about seeing them in action. And this really highlights how even those little function words, the glue words we talked about earlier, the ones that might seem kind of insignificant on their own,
Right.
they're absolutely crucial for creating coherent meaning. They're high frequency. It's not an accident.
No, it really underscores their importance in the structure of the language.
Holding everything together.
They're like the scaffolding.
The framework.
The grammatical scaffolding that lets us construct these really complex ideas from relatively simple vocabulary.
Building up from that foundation.
Exactly.
So if we were to sum it all up, this deep dive into the 1,000 most common English words, courtesy of EF Global Site,
Right.
it really reveals that mastering those core words, understanding how they work,
Yeah.
it's a surprisingly powerful key to unlocking the English language. It's not about memorizing obscure terms. It's about appreciating those fundamental building blocks, the ones that underpin so much of how we communicate, both in speaking and in writing.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important thing is to really get a handle on the basics, to understand those core concepts. And that's true whether you're actively learning a language or just someone who's fascinated by the way language works.
And for me, thinking about these as the most frequent words, the ones that pop up constantly in English, it sparks a question, doesn't it?
What's that?
What does their prominence, what does the fact that these are the words we use the most, what does that tell us about the English-speaking world, about our core concepts, our values, the ways we interact with each other? What kind of picture does it paint? And then I started thinking, well, what if you did a similar analysis for the most common words in your own field of expertise?
Oh, it's a great question.
What surprising terms might bubble up to the top of that list? And what would that reveal about the focus, about the priorities of that specific domain? It's definitely something to ponder, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Lots to think about. Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We get a ton of questions from you guys about speaking more fluently. And a lot of you say the same thing. You've learned a good amount of vocabulary. You can get the gist when you're reading or listening to English. But
when you actually need to open your mouth and speak, it's like
hitting a wall.
Yeah, it's like you freeze up, you know the words, but you just can't get them out in a smooth sentence.
Exactly. It's like having all these ingredients, but no clue how to put them together into an actual dish.
That is a perfect analogy. Because knowing individual words is one thing, but speaking fluently is about...
It's about using those words correctly in sentences.
Right, like understanding the patterns and structures that native speakers use naturally without even thinking about it.
Okay, so that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've got this resource called 100 Common English Phrases and Sentence Patterns. Now, I know...
100! That sounds like a lot.
Right. At first glance, it seems pretty overwhelming.
It does. Like, where do you even begin with that many? But the idea here is actually super smart. This resource says that if you really focus on these common phrases and patterns, these fundamental building blocks that English speakers use all the time.
You're essentially learning the core framework of the language, not just memorizing a bunch of random words.
Yeah. Instead of getting lost in this huge sea of vocabulary, you're learning the essential structures that let you create tons of different sentences.
It's like, have you ever put together one of those, like, build-it-yourself furniture kits?
Oh, yeah, from,
like the big Swedish furniture store?
IKEA. Yes, exactly.
Okay. So you get all these separate pieces, and it's super intimidating at first.
Totally.
But then you realize that this is one little tool.
The little Allen wrench.
The Allen wrench.
Yeah.
And that one tool helps you put almost everything together.
Right. You're not using a different tool for every single screw or piece.
Exactly. And these sentence patterns, they're like that Allen wrench for English. They're the key to putting the language together.
I love that. So the resource makes this point that even just mastering one of these common phrases can give you so much flexibility.
Because once you understand the underlying structure, you can swap out different words to create all kinds of variations.
You're not stuck memorizing individual sentences. You're learning how to build your own.
And the beautiful thing is, these patterns are used constantly in everyday conversations.
So you'll start to recognize them everywhere once you know what to look for.
You'll hear them in movies, in songs, in podcasts like this one.
And you'll think, oh, I know that pattern. I can use that too. Okay, so this resource talks about something called deep learning. It emphasizes repetition.
Like not just reading through the list once and calling it a day.
Right. It actually recommends focusing on about 5 of these phrases or patterns every day.
And really taking the time to understand them inside and out.
It also talks about listening to real English, which
might seem obvious.
But it's so important because...
You can learn grammar rules from a textbook, but hearing how native speakers actually use the language...
Yeah, that's what helps you develop a natural flow and rhythm.
It's about absorbing those subtle nuances that you might not pick up from just reading.
Okay, so we know 100 phrases sounds a bit daunting. That's a lot to digest all at once.
It is. And we're not going to try to go through every single one here.
Right. What we're going to do is...
Well, we're going to break down the key principles.
Yeah, the core idea behind why focusing on these common structures is so helpful for improving your fluency.
We want to give you that foundation so you can apply this to any new phrases you encounter.
So let's talk about this foundational idea. English, like all languages, relies so heavily on these recurring patterns.
Why do you think that is? I mean, why do we use the same phrases and structures over and over again?
Well, it's all about efficiency, right? If every time we wanted to express an idea, we had to invent a completely new sentence structure, it would be exhausting.
Exactly. It would be like reinventing the wheel every time you wanted to go for a drive.
And communication would be so much slower.
Right. So these common phrases, they're like shortcuts. They're tried and true ways of getting your message across quickly and clearly.
And they make it easier for the listener to understand you because they're already familiar with these patterns.
Exactly. They're expecting to hear them. Okay, so the resource gives a bunch of examples. Let's dive into a few to see how this works in real life.
Okay, let's start with a really simple one. Are you sure?
So basic, but so useful.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a question we use all the time in tons of different situations.
It's all about seeking confirmation. Like when you need to double check something.
Are you sure you locked the door?
Are you sure you sent that email?
Or maybe someone tells you something surprising and you're like, wait, are you sure about that?
It can also express a bit of doubt,
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you want to do that? It seems risky.
And the structure is always the same. Are you sure? Followed by whatever you want to confirm.
Yeah, so you can plug in all kinds of different statements.
It's a super adaptable pattern.
Okay, how about another one? Do you have cheerter available? This one's super common.
Especially when you're shopping or looking for information.
Right, like, do you have this shirt in a larger size?
Or if you're at a restaurant and you want to know if they have a certain dish.
Do you have the lasagna available?
Or you could even use it for things like, do you have any time available next week to meet?
Though you might phrase it a bit differently in a more formal context.
Right, you might say something like, would you be available to meet next week?
But the core idea is the same.
Yeah.
Checking if something is accessible or obtainable.
Okay, last one. I'm looking forward to, this one's a classic.
It's all about expressing anticipation or excitement about something in the future.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Or I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
I'm looking forward to my vacation.
It's a really common way to build positive connections and share your enthusiasm.
Now, the resource really emphasizes this deep learning idea. What would you say are some practical ways for our listeners to actually engage in that kind of learning with these phrases?
So deep learning isn't about just memorizing the phrase. It's about truly understanding why it's structured the way it is.
Like breaking it down.
Yeah, breaking it down. What are the different parts? Why are they in that order? And what kinds of words typically fit into the blanks?
So for are you sure, you might think about, what kinds of situations do I use this in? What kinds of responses do I get?
Exactly. You're going beyond the surface level meaning and really exploring how the phrase works.
Almost like taking it apart and putting it back together again?
Yes. And another great technique is to actually practice using the phrase in different contexts.
Like imagining different scenarios.
Exactly. So for I'm looking forward to.
Oh,
You could think about upcoming events in your own life and make a few sentences.
I'm looking forward to that concert next month.
I'm looking forward to trying that new restaurant. The more you use the phrase actively, even if it's just in your head, the better you'll understand it.
And then the resource talks about listening to real English. How does that tie in to deep learning?
Well, when you hear these phrases being used naturally by native speakers, you pick up on all those subtle cues.
Like the rhythm, the intonation.
Exactly. You start to get a feel for how the phrase sounds in different contexts.
And you might even notice variations or informal ways of saying the same thing.
Right. Language isn't always about following strict rules.
It's about understanding how people actually use it.
Exactly. And listening to real English helps you bridge that gap between knowing the phrase and actually using it naturally.
The source also mentions that it's really helpful to review these patterns frequently, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time.
Like while you're commuting or waiting in line or something.
Yeah, those little moments throughout the day can really add up.
Because it's all about repetition and keeping these phrases fresh in your mind.
And for those who really want to dive deeper into this method, the resource actually offers a downloadable package.
Oh, cool. What's in the package?
It includes audio recordings of all 100 phrases spoken by native speakers.
That's amazing.
And it also has transcripts so you can follow along.
So it's like having a personal English tutor in your pocket.
Exactly. And it's a great way to get that consistent exposure to the sounds of these phrases.
Because remember, language is primarily auditory. We learn by hearing and imitating.
Okay, so to sum up, if you're comfortable with vocabulary but struggling to speak fluently,
Focusing on these common patterns is a really effective strategy.
it's about learning the core building blocks of spoken English, not just collecting individual words.
And it's about understanding how those blocks fit together to create natural flowing sentences.
And remember, the journey to fluency isn't about passive memorization, it's about active engagement.
It's about breaking down these phrases, practicing them, and listening to how native speakers use them.
So here's a challenge for you as you go about your day today. Pay attention to how people use language.
Especially those common phrases we talked about.
Think about situations where you could try using one of them yourself.
And don't be afraid to experiment. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
And if you're looking for more resources to help you on your journey, well, remember,
There are so many great podcasts, websites, and apps out there.
find the ones that work best for you and keep practicing.
Keep diving deep.
Until next time.
See you then.